Hi again. Here we are to talk about JavaScript. This time, the last video I talked about arrays. This time I'd like to talk about objects, okay? And arrays are objects, but there's also a JavaScript object. It's kind of like a dictionary in Swift, or it's similar to an array, but all the elements are named. Let's do that. So I'll make a brand new file. Let's make a new file. We'll save it to our folder here. We'll call it index number 3, and we'll write the script tag. And we'll just do this example in the console again. Okay, so there's our file. And why don't we open up the new file, index 3, in the browser. And then I've got the console open so we can see the results. Okay, so what is an object in JavaScript? Well, an object looks like this. I'll make a variable, and the variable could have any name, right? I'll just call it obj for object. And then what we'll do is we'll set it equal to the curly braces like that. So there's an empty object, okay? So an object can have values and properties, okay? So every property is associated with a value. And what we do is this. We might say like property, colon, and then the value could be, hello. And then property might be name, colon, and the value might be world, okay? And that doesn't make sense, but it's just a simple example, right? Maybe we want to make another property here. We could say comma ID colon is 123. Okay, so the value here can be anything you like. Actually, the value here can be a string or a I guess they call this an identifier. So you can use different values here for the property name too. Let's do this now. So how does this look? Let's console log that to log it to the console like this. Right, so there we go. We'll just print out that object and see what it looks like. Oh, there you go, right? So how do you access the items from an object? Well, let's try this. Console.log, and then what I'll do is I'll say object bracket, and then I'll do the name of my object. So if I wanted to get property like this, then it should give me hello. Okay, so I'm putting the name or the property name for this value here in the quotation marks. That's one way to do it. Okay, so that's very similar to using dictionaries in Swift. Another way that you could write this is you could say console.log, and then we can say object dot, and now I can say the name of a property. So maybe I'll get the name property here, right? So I'll get this guy, and so I can just put the name here like that. Okay, and that's another way to do it with the dot. Let's actually put some spaces around that. Maybe it's easier to read. Okay, so let's test that. Oh, look, so I get hello world, right? Okay. If you want to add a new property to an object, you can say just object dot name of property. Let's put description equals, objects are useful. Okay. And then maybe I'll print that out. I'll say console.log. Let's put a space object dot description, right? And then we'll test it. Oh, there it is. Objects are useful, right? So that was from line 10. And then if you want to just console log the entire object again, we can do that. So we'll save that and then try it again. Oh, there's your entire object, and you can see it's created a new property. So you can add as many properties as you want to an object. Properties can be, or the value for a property can be anything. So you can put another array or another object in here, if you like. And so essentially, this is just like an array, but we're naming the values rather than storing them at an index, okay? If you want to loop through all of the properties in an object, you can use a for loop. Since there isn't an index, we can't just mechanically count through them, but what we can do is we can use the for in loop. Actually, let's make this for prop in object, okay? And what will happen here is the prop value, or this variable called prop, will be the property name for each property name that you have in your object. Okay, so that means that if I log that, if I said, let's do it this way, let's say property plus, and I'll put the colon there, plus, and then I'll say object, bracket, property, like that, right? So here I'm going to print out the property name, combine it with a string here that has a space and a colon, and then follow it with the value. So it should say property colon like this, and then say the name here or whatever the value is, and then it should say name colon and then world and ID colon and then 1, 2, 3, and then it'll include the description too because we added that new property afterwards right here, right? So we'll save that and we'll give it a quick test. And there we go. So its property is hello, property name is world, property ID is 1, 2, 3, and description is objects are useful. Okay, so there's a quick description of properties. You might think like, hey, this property value thing looks a lot like JSON. Well, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation, and essentially JSON was built off these JavaScript objects, right? People saw this and they thought like, hey, maybe we can just make a generic, text format that looks like this. Right, and so that's where JSON came from, right? So essentially JSON is based off this. JSON has to follow a couple extra rules though because it's saved as a straight text, right? It's not native to anything, right? So anyway, hopefully that's helpful, and thanks for watching.